I could dance, the more rigid I became, the harder it got. The more I cursed my clumsy footsteps, the more I struggled. So I got older, and I learned to relax, and I learned to soften, and that dance got easier. It is this eternal dance that separates human beings from angels, from demons, from gods. And I must not forget, we must not forget, that we are human beings.
Wow, that was incredibly powerful.
Let's lower the shields together and explore what happens during this performance of HI REN. Hi, and welcome to the channel. This platform has been blowing up recently, raising awareness to the importance of mental wellness. I hold a Doctor of Psychology degree and worked as a psychological assistant and trauma therapist for 6 years. Since March of this year, I have viewed many reactions to the video of HI REN by the performer Ren. At the moment of this video, HI REN is approaching 10 million views. When I first saw it, it was around 7.1 million views. There's something going on inside it, but as I watched various reactors to it, I became aware of something, a pattern of something that was showing up in viewers. I first heard about Ren through the charismatic voice. A link to her channel is down below. And I've noticed that consistently the performance of HI REN has been activating people emotionally and within their body. In this video, I'm explaining some of the experiences that each of us can have and that I've been witnessing on the public forum. Content creators out here that are putting material out onto YouTube around mental wellness are offering the world a sense of authenticity and vulnerability. I invite you to stay curious as to this journey as we embark on it. I mindfully create photographs and publish some of them on my other channel, Sing to the Mountain Studio. The link to that is down below also. I hold a Doctor of Psychology degree and worked as a psychological assistant and trauma therapist for 6 years. As we move forward, I'll be stopping it often to watch the whole video uninterrupted. The link to HI REN itself on Ren's channel is also going to be listed down below in the description. Let's lower the shields together and explore what happens during this performance of HI REN. One of the things I've noticed that within some of the reactors is just as this scene is opening up, going from an empty room with some lights and debris in the corner to what happens when individuals show up in the room. Bringing it all in, the sounds that show up, the curiosity. One of the figures is masked. Some of the reactors have immediately identified it as referencing some other movie that they've seen. Some reference a horror movie, some name it, call it a pig's head and a butcher. But in some simply say, oh, this is interesting, I didn't see that one coming. Without focusing yet on Ren, and then as they start to notice the individual sitting in the chair, they start naming, wow, it's the person's dressed in hospital garb, sitting in a chair, has a guitar. More curiosity starts showing up. And within the lighting here, already we're starting to see references to the shadow. On the floor, this motif will start to show up many times visually throughout this video. The way the shadows are cast off to the left and to the right of the individual in the chair starts representing a shadow figure, something that Carl Jung named over 100 years ago. Many psychologists will work with clients around it. There's lots of practices worldwide on what happens when we engage with our shadow and how do we make sense of it. So the shadow's already showing up here in just the opening scenes before we begin to really hear what the performance is. So commonality across the reactors, many of them have been musicians, producers, vocal coaches, etc. In this portion of the video, start to have comments of the surprise of having a classical guitar present, but then also the tones and the pitch and the chords that Ren is playing on the guitar. And also the skillfulness with which the performance is unfolding. And already within this, within the music is starting to have references to a shadow side. There's a melodicness to it, and then occasionally something within the chords, there's a dissonance that Ren is adding into the music. In all of this, our minds tend to have an expectation of what the next notes are going to be played. And when something starts to break that structure, something inside us starts to create a tension in us. We may start to feel it, or we can block it. That's what our own shadow sides will do, is we'll block off from it and just say, well, where are we going with this? But invites more curiosity along the way. And as the progressions increase, tension starts to grow. Some of the reactors had identified that the particular key that Ren is playing in, I'm not a musician, so I'm not going to try to analyze that aspect of it, is one that is known to evoke strong emotions. And we're getting ready to shift into a resolution. Oftentimes within music, there will be a tension building phase and then an ease, and here comes the ease. In this section, several of the reactors have expressed surprise at the vocalizations that we're hearing from Ren, along with that melodic guitar playing. The polyvagal theory starts to inform us that as we hear things, as sound, tone, pitch, tempo arrives into the nervous system, it has the ability to activate emotions and a sense of safety or a sense of not safe within our own bodies as we're watching this. And some of the vocal coaches that I've seen, Charismatic Voice was one, identified that even within the pitching of Ren's tones, the shadow side is starting to be present. It's present in the guitar playing, it's present in the lighting, and now it's becoming present also in his vocalizations.
Hi there, Ren. It's been a little while. Did you miss me? You thought you buried me, didn't you? Risky. Cause I always come back. Deep down, you know that. Deep down, you know I'm always in periphery. Ren, on your pleased to see me. It's been weeks since we spoke, bro. I know you need me. You're the sheep, I'm the shepherd. Not your place to lead me. Not your place to be biting off the hand that feeds me.
Here, there's a lot building now. This is like the production is building a sandwich. We start with a base layer, and then we start adding things to it. The important things, where there's different layers of what might show up in the sandwich, and then condiments are getting sprinkled in periodically, whatever those might be. So throughout the performance, now the rest of the performance, the layers are going to continue to build. It's going to be quite the sandwich when we're done. Decades ago, there used to be a character that would build a sandwich called the Dagwood, which was some huge sandwich that was almost become unedible. Polyvagal theory starts to describe to us what's going on within our vagus system, our vagal system, as this kind of voice shows up. Not even getting into what the lyrics are yet, of the prosody, the tone, the pitch of the voice, along with the lighting. The lights are starting to flash chaotically. There's an expressive affect on Ren's face. All of this starts pulling emotions within us, where our vagus system is monitoring what's going on. We're constantly sensing for ourselves, safe or not safe. It's kind of a dichotomous experience. And meanwhile, more of the shadow is showing up. The lights flickering change the way the shadows fall on the floor or fall on Ren's face and across his body. But hearing the shadow side in the voice also. Many of the reactors express more surprise, sometimes even shock and amazement, and sometimes even a little bit of anxiousness, anxiety, apprehension in this portion of the song.
Hi REN, I've been taking some time to be distant. I've been taking some time to be still. I've been taking some time to be by myself since my therapist told me I'm ill. And I've been making some progress lately, and I've learned some new coping skills. So I haven't really needed you much, man. I think we need to just step back and chill.
Now we're starting to experience that. This is two different sides of Ren speaking to each other. They're having a conversation at this point. The one side, the one with the harsher sounding voice, might be viewed as a critic or something like that. Definitely a shadow side. As we start teasing apart what the shadow represents for each of us, it's a part of us that sometimes is useful, but oftentimes not, can sound critical, demeaning, even mean-spirited and angry sometimes. Versus the calm side, trying to say, hey, you don't understand what I got going on. I've got a lot going on. And as the languaging starts showing up, we pay attention to the words that both sides are saying to each other, add to then the response and the reactions. And we're looking at the emotions on the faces of the two different sides. We have neurons within ourselves. Some neurologists start to refer to them as mirror neurons that say, hey, let's resonate with this. And to start to resonate at this level of emotion can actually start to create a sense of tension within our own bodies. And that's what had been showing up in many of the reactors as they've been reacting to this, knowingly or unknowingly, is that as we become fully engaged with this performance, it lands in us and pulls our own emotions forward and our own experiences with our own shadows.
REN, you sound more insane than I do. You think that those doctors are really there to guide you? Been through this a million times. Your civilian mind is so perfect, they're always being lied to. Okay, take another pill, boy. Drown yourself in the sound of white noise. Follow this 10-step program, rejoice. All your problems will be gone. Fucking dumb boy. Nah, mate, this time is different, man. Trust me. I feel like
being able to start to notice some shifts within the calmer sign of Ren, starting to show emotional expression on the face of maybe worry or something along those lines, contrasted with the other side, angry, a little bit of contempt from the other side coming toward the calmer side. All the while, the lights change, the music sounds change. While all this is going on, and the camera angles also, the movement of the camera during different aspects of this is all another layer into this sandwich that they're building here.
things might be falling in place, and my music's been kinda doing bits too. Like I actually might do something great, and when I'm gone, maybe I'll be remembered for doing something special with myself. That's why I don't think that we should talk, man, because when you're with me, it never seems to help.
How many of us don't want to be able to acknowledge for ourselves that whatever we're doing, our purpose in life, our meaning is to change the world somehow, whether it's at an individual level or on some grander scheme. So many of us on the YouTube platforms are out here producing content, and we simply want it to be noticed and recognized and be useful for somebody. Then the negative side of REN says something, and that starts to evoke more emotion, more identification within ourselves that, oh, my other side criticizes me, also telling me that I'm not good enough.
You think that you can amputate me? I am you, you are me, you are I am we are one. Split in two, that makes one. So you see, you gotta kill you if you wanna kill me. I'm not leftover dinner, I'm not scraps on the side. Oh, your music is thriving, delusional guy. Where's your top 10 hit? Where's your interview with Oprah? Where are your Grammys, Ren?
This is a space where so oftentimes within the reactors, they identify verbally for their audience, and being able to see the expressions on the reactors' faces also, a sensation of, sometimes they will say that they're getting the chills, they're getting goosebumps, goose flesh, the hair standing up on their arms. A couple have even identified that they're starting to sweat at this point. While they're identifying that, some of them have identified that they're having strong emotions here also, that there's something in this piece where what this side of REN has to say is harsh. You got to kill you if you got to kill me. Oh, that can really be scary. And here comes fear. And it shows up in our bodies just simply as viewers, whether we have these explicit thoughts like this ourselves, or whether we can simply identify with, wow, that can really be hard and scary to have that going on within us. And what do we do with that? So the conversation continues back and forth.
Yeah, but my music's not commercial like that. I never chase numbers, statistics or stats. I never write hooks for the radio, they never even play me, so why would I concern myself with that? But my music is really connecting, and the people who find it respect it. And for me that's enough, cause this life's been tough, so it gives me a purpose I can rest in. Man, you sound so pretentious. Ren, your music is so self-centered. No one wants to hear another song about how much you hate yourself.
The performance progresses. It's turning into an argument now, from one side to the other. Without labeling the sides, the reactors have been starting to get pulled into it. Many of them identify with them themselves, what it's like for them, but then also how harsh it is can be for anybody. Most of us, because we are human, we do have a couple different ego states, aspects of ourselves that start showing up. All the while, the nervous system is connected with all of this. The nervous system will try to connect with what our thoughts are and send us information. But sometimes we got this unconscious aspect of ourselves. And in essence, this is where the shadow resides, is in the unconscious and subconscious. So the body can start sending us signals of tension, of tightness, of goose flesh, of sweating, an urge to want to pull away and withdraw. And yet the thinking brain will say, no, let's keep watching this. Let's keep going. Many of the reactors I'd seen will actually pause it, and there'll be a hard cut, not wanting their own emotional affect to be shown. But there's a lot to come still. The layers are still being piled on. The argument is intensing. The conflict is building as they continue to go on.
You should be so lucky, having me inside you to guide you, remind you, to manage expectations, provide you perspective. That thing you neglected, I get it. You wanna be a big deal, next Jimi Hendrix, forget it. Man, it's not like that. Man, it's just like that. I'm inside you, you twat. No, it's not, man, you're wrong.
Now, starting to be able to see the worry on this aspect of REN can evoke within us our own sense of concern and worry. If we're identifying empathically, maybe even compassionately, our compassion might be building, saying, I want to do something to resolve this. I want to give this guy some relief. They're taking us down this path. They're building layers to it, saying, no, you're along the ride with us. And what shows up then, what the reactors have been starting to articulate, is that they're feeling it. They're fully engaged with it. They're becoming into it a state of wow and awe. Awe is an intense emotion. Awful or awesome could be that that the reactors are starting to hold both of these conditions of awe as this is unfolding.
When I write, I belong. Let me break the fourth wall by acknowledging this song. Ren sits down, has a stroke of genius. He wants to write a song that was not done previous. A battle with the subconscious. Eminem did it. Played on guitar. Plan B did it. Man, you're not original, you criminal rip-off artist. The pinnacle of your success is stealing other people's material. Ren, mate, we've heard it all before. She sells seashells on the seashore.
Here it is. This Ren is mocking the other Ren for all the stuff that he's done, calling him out on stealing material from other people. And the content creators have identified this. They've even recognized that, oh, well, isn't that what a lot of us do? Creating something solely, absolutely original is very challenging and difficult. So we pick and choose and we borrow. To call it out, to be mocked for it, can feel extremely harsh on the inside. And so then here we are as viewers, we might start to identify also that, wow, what's this all about? Strong emotions, strong body sensations still. Teasing out, being able to really get into what it is that the body is sending upwards toward the thinking brain while watching this.
But fuck you, I don't need you, I don't need to hear this, cause I'm fine by myself, I'm a genius, and I will be great, and I will make waves, and I'll shake up the whole world beneath it. That's right, speak your truth, your fucking God complex leaks out of you. It's refreshing to actually hear you say it instead of downplay it. Music is all about the creative process, and if people can find something to relate to within that, then that's just a bonus. Fuck you, I'ma fucking kill you, Ren. Well, fucking kill me then, let's fucking have you, Ren.
So oftentimes, the reactors have had moments where they've realized that this is tapping into maybe their own experiences of having known someone that may have died by suicide. Maybe they've had their own suicidal ideations. It's not an uncommon experience for many of us if we make it through life, that very likely somebody that we really care about may end their life by their own hand. And that lands hard to have reminders of it. We may have our own thoughts sporadically if we struggle with our own sense of mental wellness, of anxiety and depression and whatnot, that, wow, this can be a harsh conversation to have, whether we're empathically engaged and compassionately engaged with what's going on between the two sides of REN here, or we're thinking of our own experiences and we're bringing them in, or they're coming in whether we want them to or not. This kind of a dialogue right here is activating some harsh memories for many of us as we move through it. It can be overwhelming. This is part of what's been going on with some of the reactors, is that it taps into the humanness of the whole platform, that all of us here on YouTube, we are human, and we do experience emotions. We do experience conflict. We're not always absolutely certain of ourselves, but this is also an element of being human, of all of humanity.
I do it, watch me prove it. Who are you to doubt my music? Cause I call the shots, I choose if you die. Yeah, I call the shots, and so I choose who survives. I'll tie you up in knots when I lock you inside.
This section here, as it's coming up, oftentimes is a turning point for many of the people that have been reacting. Many have been, they show up on YouTube and they want to be stoic. They don't want to let emotions show. They name it. They go, I can't let my audience see that I might tear up once in a while. Some of them absolutely embrace that. Their authenticity and vulnerability just flows through. And many try to block it, which is all shadow stuff. How we navigate with our shadow is so important and what it means to us. So as this section starts to unfold, it starts breaking through, getting behind the shields that many of the reactors try to hold up. The invitation as we began this was to lower the shields. And lowering the shield then exposes us to being vulnerable and to feeling fully what might be going on.
Newsflash! I was created at the dawn of creation. I am temptation. I am the snake in Eden. I am the reason for treason, beheading all kings. I am sin, with no rhyme or reason. Son of the morning, Lucifer, Antichrist, father of lies, Mephistopheles.
Right here is one of the spots where there's a shift in the making of the sandwich. This aspect of REN looks the camera, looks right down the barrel of the camera, looks us in the eye to come face to face with this side of ourselves being presented to us, the shadow side, looking us in the eye, our own shadows looking back at us, or we're looking into the eyes of our own shadow. That can be harsh, that can be hard. So it starts coming out through many of the reactors then. It's an absolute turning point as they're noticing it. Some of them are calling out their physical responses, some are simply naming the emotion that they're experiencing, and some are even saying, I wanted to stop it, but I'm not. Somebody right around here will take a drink. That can be a way of engaging with the body to give a little bit of relief to the body in the presence of a moment of emotional engagement.
Truth in the blender, deceitful pretender, the banished avenger, the righteous surrender when standing in front of my solar eclipse. My name is stitched to your lips, so you see, I won't bow to the will of a mortal, feeble and normal. You wanna kill me? I'm eternal immortal. I live in every decision that Cadillac.
Right here in this spot is where all the sensory modalities that I've been identifying to activate the polyvagal system are coming together. The lighting, the tone, the pitch, movement within Ren. We're seeing movement. We're hearing the sounds of the guitar. We're hearing the sounds in his voice. We're seeing images on his face. We're seeing the lights flash, the coloring in the room, the movement of the camera. It's all coming in, activating our nervous systems. And the nervous system wants to find relief from it.
That's chaos that causes division. I live inside death, the beginning of ends. I am you, you are me, I am you, friend.
In this part here, the talking, the singing stops, and the music keeps taking us up. The vagus nerve innervates with our nerves that are activated through hearing. So when we're hearing these pitches, these tones of the guitar taking us higher and higher and higher in a sense of
menace.
So fear starts to show up in the body, a tension, an anxiousness, wanting it to stop. Musically and visually, Ren has given us now some relief, some resolution. We're coming down. He's bringing us down tonically through the guitar. The scene is settling down. The lighting has settled down. His body is starting to relax. And this is an important shift. We're only about halfway through this, and something's changing. We've seen a buildup, a harshness, mean-spirited, some people might even label it as an evilness coming out of Ren. Now we're seeing a shift. His entire aspect softens into it, and it pulls us in. It gives us, thank you. It gives us relief. And this is what many of the reactors have been identifying and noticing within themselves. It's like, oh, yes, let's see where this goes. More curiosity.
Hi, Ren. I've been taking some time to be distant. I've been taking some time to be still. I've been taking some time to be by myself, and I've spent half my life ill. But just as sure as the tide starts turning, just as sure as the night has dawned, just as sure as the rainfall soon runs dry when you stand in an eye of a storm.
And this is a space where now Ren so skillfully is pulling us in. He's looking us in the eye, and things are starting to feel more hopeful. There's starting to be a resolution. So we start to feel this inner joy. We have this ability. These mirror neurons allow us, while we're staying empathic, to start to sense, yes, let's go with this. Let's ride this wave. And in this, Ren specifically calls out the shadow.
I was made to be tested and twisted. I was made to be broken and beat. I was made by his hand, it's all part of his plan that I stand on my own 2 feet. And you know me, my will is eternal. And you know me, you've met me before. Face to face with a beast, I will rise from the east and I'll settle on the ocean floor. And I go by many names also. Some people know me as hope. Some people know me as the voice that you hear when you loosen the noose on the rope. And you know how I know that I'll prosper? Cause I stand here beside you today. I have stood in the flames that cremated my brain, and I didn't once flinch or shake. So coward the man I've become when I sing from the top of my lungs.
This is another one of those spaces where the reactors have been caught by surprise once again. We're so deep into the building of this sandwich, we're thinking, when's the sandwich going to be ready? When's the last flare coming on? He now goes into his singing voice. Not speaking voice, not angry voice, not harsh Ren, calm Ren, not rapping, etc. It's a singing voice. And it's pulling in this exaltation, this name of hope. He's already called out hope. And we're starting to feel it. He's now risen up. He's stood up. And internally, the reactors start to soften. They start moving with the song and the beat. And something happens within the reactors as they see this aspect of Ren emerging that we haven't seen yet. Another aspect of the ego of the self. Might even be the true self of Ren that's Ren's letting us see. I'm the one that's been moving along in this ride, doing this dance. It's an eternal dance, a dance with the shadow.
That I won't retire or stand in your fire, inspire that me to be strong. And when I am gone, I will voice in the music that I left behind. Ferocious, persistent, immortal like you, Iroquois minted different sides.
Through this section, many of the people that have been viewing been pulled in and start feeling the exaltation that is coming out through his body, the dancing. It's almost as though it's a dancing for joy and being reborn. The main layers that I'm discussing here are referencing the psychology of the shadow side and then how it shows up in the body of the viewer through the vagus system. There are many other interpretations that can start to be laid on as to what all this represents, whether we start bringing in different faith views and religious views from around the globe. But in essence, it's landing in each of us because we're all human and we're all experiencing something with him. We're not just viewers, we're experiencing it also. It's not simply a passive experience. The music's not done. Our nervous systems want to hear musical pieces complete themselves. And in this, Ren just stopped playing. You've been taking us up and down, increasing tension and giving us resolution all throughout this sandwich, and all of a sudden you just stop. That brings up more uncertainty and more curiosity. The uncertainty will start to show up. But now I've been noticing within the reactors that there's a level of trust, like, well, I already want to see what happens next, versus an apprehension. There's a different kind of a curiosity that's showing up along with this level of uncertainty.
When I was 17 years old, I shouted out into an empty room, into a blank canvas, that I would defeat the forces of evil. And for the next 10 years of my life, I suffered the consequences, with autoimmunity, illness, and psychosis. As I got older, I realized there were no real winners and there were no real losers in psychological warfare, but there were victims and there were students. It wasn't David versus Goliath. It was a pendulum, eternally swaying from the dark to the light. And the more intensely that the light shone, the darker the shadow it cast. It was never really a battle for me to win. It was an eternal dance. And like a dance, the more rigid I became, the harder it got. The more I cursed my clumsy footsteps, the more I struggled. So I got older, and I learned to relax, and I learned to soften, and that dance got easier. It is this eternal dance that separates human beings from angels, from demons, from gods. And I must not forget, we must not forget, that we are human beings.
So often, as we saw in the clips early on, right at the beginning, is that many of the reactors get to this moment and they're speechless. They'll might even name it. They'll sit silently. Sometimes there's a hard cut and they'll move on and take a break and come back when they've kind of reconfigured themselves a little bit. So the power of a performance like this is activating us. It activates our shadow sides, our different aspects of ourselves, our ego states. There's so many different theories in psychology that start to describe what that's like for us as our inner critic shows up and, experiences like that. being able to listen to Ren's words at the end. Here he is speaking to us, explaining his process, his experiences, his life experiences, can be useful. But also one of the things that he's calling out is being able to identify that what helped him, and it may continue to help him, is the ability to learn how to relax, to soften. That's one of the things that mindfulness practices can help us learn how to do. There's a lot of different practices that are useful. Therapy can be useful for identifying the different states and learning how to engage with them rather than resist. It's the resistance that tends to cause us the challenges throughout life. As we quit resisting, we start finding out that something happens. And one of the main takeaways that Jung has offered us, Carl Jung, around the shadow is as we start to integrate the shadow into who we are, things relax, they soften. Then it's like every once in a while there's upset and then there's calm. There's upset and then calm. And this is what life is. Life will bring us challenges throughout. We all go through it. It may feel like it's a battle between demons and angels, yet we can soften it because we're not gods. We are human, and we can move back and forth through what we have going on. In the content creators out here that are putting material out onto YouTube around mental wellness are offering the world a sense of authenticity and vulnerability. Anyone watching this, to take care of yourself, recognize that self, and also recognize when the shadow self is active. It shows up in so many different ways. You don't have to do it alone. That's another aspect of once we notice that this is common to being human, we can also recognize that, well, I'm not alone, and what do I do with it? Thank you for watching, and links to resources, whether it's mental health resources or mindfulness resources, will also be listed in the description down below. Be well.